Welcome back, everyone, to the Bent Limbs podcast. I am your host, Matt Thielking. Today on episode 9, guys, I am running solo. Got a few things I want to cover with you that I think are not only fun, informative, but can also help you get a jump start on the 2022 hunting season. Even though, like myself, many of you have probably just wrapped up, or if you're lucky enough to still be hunting, man, I am jealous because I have definitely been a little bit bored here at the beginning of the off season, a little cooped up. The weather is crappy and cold here in Michigan, but there are definitely some things that I want to go over with you guys that I am either doing or starting to do to really just get a jump start on the 2022 season and take care of some things that I can take care of now before some other distractions with the nice weather pop up. So first thing, want to go through a couple of announcements or items with you guys. The first one that I am pretty excited about, there is a new partner in the works. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but I want you guys to keep your eye out for that new partner. It's a company that I have been following, and it's kind of I don't want to give away, I guess, too much, but it's not a stereotypical crossbow company, but I think this is a product family that all hunters, all outdoor enthusiasts, sorry, I can't talk, all outdoor enthusiasts can enjoy or can use and see a need for. I just really think with all of you guys that this is a company that fits really well with what I do, what you guys do, and I'm really excited to bring them on. So they will be part of the podcast as far as kind of like a partner or sponsor goes. They'll also be part of the just Draggin Deer Outdoors channel as a whole. But I'm just excited. It's really cool to continue to kind of find and partner with these companies that I believe in, that fit the profile of what I'm trying to do here on the Bent Limbs podcast or with Draggin Deer Outdoors, and what I think you guys will like, enjoy, and benefit from. So when we do bring them on, I am working on some discounts and things like that along the way to pass on to you guys. So be on the lookout for that new partnership. Another cool thing, our friends over at Serious Archery have come out with a new broadhead on the Tuffhead side of things, or I guess not completely new, but a new weight for one of their broadheads that I think is going to be absolutely perfect dynamite for us crossbow hunters. That is the Tuffhead Evolution 3 blade in a 150 grain. So I am super excited about this broadhead. I have not gotten my hands on it yet, but I am working on that. I know Seth and the Serious Archery team, the Tuffhead team, are working hard to get these broadheads up and going. I don't know if you guys saw Seth's most recent video over on Serious Archery TV. If you haven't, definitely check it out. Definitely check that channel out too. Serious Archery now has their own YouTube channel. Sorry, I said Serious Archery TV. It's called Serious TV. I'll put a link down below in the description for you guys so you can check it out. But they just finished up, Seth and one of his buddies just finished up doing some broadhead testing with this Evolution 3-blade 150 on some gators, and it performed great. And I messaged Seth right after I watched that episode. I was like, man, these look awesome. I mean, I knew last year with that 3-blade Evolution, kind of coming out, I knew this was a good broadhead, but man, I really do like, this is just me personally, that 150 grain head size with some insert weight just seems to work really well with a lot of the setups that I use. So I was really excited that they went down this route with that Evolution 3 blade. If you guys don't know much about it, I have heard there are some crossbow hunters that were using the heavier ones, the 200 or 300 grain last year. The flight of this broadhead is supposed to be phenomenal from what I've heard. Wojo over at Tuffhead, he's kind of the brains, the The R&D guy behind this takes great pride in making these heads. These are premium broadheads, and the flight characteristics, the accuracy of it, combined with just how tough it is from a design and material standpoint. I heard great things last year. I think we're going to hear even more great things this year with that 150, and just how I think that is going to work within crossbow and arrow platforms. I think you guys are really going to like that. I can't wait to get my hands on them and give you guys more info and do some testing for Sirius. I'm super excited about that. So those are kind of the announcements for today. And the topics I want to cover are Taiwanese manufacturers and just some things that you can do in the off season. Like I talked about a little bit here at the intro, just what I'm doing, what I think you can do, just some things to get a jump start on the 2022 season. So we're going to start with Taiwanese crossbow manufacturers. This is kind of something that I've been just following and looking into a little bit to get more info on different manufacturers, different models that are being released. So there are many different crossbow manufacturers that use some Taiwanese companies as either contract manufacturers or OEMs. If you don't know what those are, at least in the industry that I work in, which is completely separate from hunting, crossbows, anything like that in general, but in the industry I work in, an OEM is basically a existing product that fits within a company's portfolio that is rebranded for the company that is going to sell it, and then they just sell it. So there really isn't design control or design rights to that particular product. So like within a crossbow, basically it would be you are taking an existing model of a crossbow. You might be changing some aesthetics, putting your own branding on that crossbow, but you are essentially selling it as is from a design standpoint from that Taiwanese manufacturer, just under your branded name. That would be an OEM. A CM is similar, but the company that is going to be selling it, the crossbow companies that we all know very well, they would have design control or some additions and tweaks to the bow. So you might see on a CM bow some distinct features from these Taiwanese manufacturers, be it a trigger assembly, a buttstock, a cam profile, a rail design, and kind of the machined cutouts, foot stirrups. I don't know, things like that that can be indicators of which Taiwanese company that manufacturer is working with, but they might have their own spin, or they might have their own design elements that get incorporated into that bow, where that manufacturer has some design control, or all design control. There are manufacturers that use some of these Taiwanese companies that have 100% design control, things that you won't find on a few of these websites that I'm gonna tell you about. There's that too from a contract manufacturing standpoint. So OEM, basically a rebranded bow. CM, partial or 100% design control, just being manufactured by one of these Taiwanese companies. The reason I'm telling you guys this is because I honestly stumbled on this on the Crossbow Nations forum, and it just helped me. I don't know. I guess I just like figuring out where things are made, who's making them. It gives you another avenue to research, not only a particular company that you know well, but also their manufacturer, and look for reviews. A lot of these Taiwanese manufacturers sell, the same or very similar bows in markets outside of the U.S., and you can find even more input, intel, reviews, things like that. So I don't want you to think at all that this is a knock against any company that uses one of these Taiwanese manufacturers. Obviously global manufacturing is a thing in just about every industry, and it's a thing in the crossbow industry. If that's something that you're just not interested in, if you're interested in buying a 100% U.S. manufactured bow or bows made in the USA. I totally get that. So those three, there's three big ones, I guess, that I've found. Three big Taiwanese manufacturers. That is what I've found so far. And I hope I say one of the names right. The other two I think I got. Polang, Mankung, and Horizon. I will put those names down below in the description with links to their websites. And just for fun, if there are bows, especially some of the more entry-level bows, and honestly, even some of the higher-end bows that are made from these, I think you will be able to figure out on some of them which manufacturer is making those bows. Two that are very easy. I'll give you a couple. That are very recognizable from these manufacturers. I guess we'll start with Polang. That one's a little more difficult, at least from what I can see on their online portfolio of crossbows. There are a few that I have some hunches of that use Polang, but I'm not 100% because the design elements that I see on some of the U.S. based companies that could potentially use them, it's just harder for me to correlate. But I do know this is a pretty big brand. Their bows look, more traditional style crossbows with the standard, limb design, like the traditional crossbow limb design, the traditional crossbow cam profile, and not like the reverse cams, that type of stuff. But there are a few things within their stocks, their trigger guards, things like that I recognize a little bit, but I'm not 100% on. But when we get into Mankung and we get into Horizon, there are definitely a few bows that I recognize and that you guys will recognize as well. So if you want to explore a little bit, go to Mankung's website and look through their portfolio, and you are going to see two very distinct, very popular, very good crossbows in some center point bows. So take a look at the Mankung Stalker. You're going to recognize that as the original center point sniper, which has a great track record. It made a splash in the market. My friend has one. Was a fantastic bow at the time that Centerpoint used it and released it under their brand, in that its price point for a 370 feet per second bow was legit. And that I've shot that bow, and that is a good bow. That one you will definitely recognize when you pull up the Mankung website. And then the other one that I definitely recognize was one, a little bit newer one, and that is the Wrath 430. You will definitely recognize that one. So if you were ever wondering what manufacturer Centerpoint is using for at least some of their bows, there you go, Mankung. Horizon. If you take a look at the Horizon product, portfolio, you're also going to see some that I recognize, and these ones might be a little bit harder because what I see on their website is not. I don't recognize one that is like a direct OEM, at least to me. But I do recognize a couple very distinct design elements from a bow that I actually have that I absolutely love, and a few other ones. So one thing that I can tell from, I'll just, say and I don't know, I guess, if PSE uses Horizon anymore, but my second crossbow, one that I still have, one that has just been a rock solid bow for me. It's kind of my backup bow, my bow that my wife uses, one that if like I take friends hunting, they use. It's just been a really solid bow for me. The PSE Invictus. If you take a look at kind of the rail, I guess you could call it like the molding of like the trigger guard, and then kind of the molding that goes from like that encases the rail and goes over into like the buttstock assembly. That molding has some pretty distinct geometry and kind of like holes or cutouts or things like that I can instantly tell it is exactly the same as what is on my PSE Invictus. And that bow, was made, I'm confident, by Horizon. The grip, same, kind of the limb profile, limb geometry, cam profile, very, very similar. And there's another bow that, again, shows some of those design elements that I am confident is made by Horizon. That bow that I'm talking about is a newer bow. Came out, I think, a couple of months ago, and it was at the ATA. I was looking at an article talking about this bow, this new company over at ATA. That is Psyched Crossbows. So I will put a link down below in the description as well. This bow is the Psyched Hunt Vindicate XVC crossbow. This thing is kind of a newer version of my PSE Invictus. And I'm actually, I really like this bow. I really like my PSE Invictus. There is nothing fancy about it. It is a very traditional style bow, moderate speed for what crossbows are doing now. My PSE Invictus is 370. This Psyched Hunt Vindicate XVC is 380 feet per second, with a a draw weight of 185 pounds. It's a really nice looking bow aesthetically, what they did with it. I really like kind of the gray aluminum rail that they did instead of like a traditional black or some of the, I don't know if you would call them like gold color I've seen on others, but it's a sharp looking bow. How they did black, the kind of the gray or silver rail mixed with the camo. It's a good looking bow. And just knowing my experience with the PSE Invictus and how it's just a workhorse of a crossbow. It's not flashy. It's not the fastest. It's not the lightest. It's not any of those things, but it's a workhorse. And so I'm pretty pumped that Psyched is using the Horizon line. I'm kind of pumped too that I finally figured out who made that PSE Invictus, because it's a damn good bow. So if you guys are in the market for your first crossbow, another crossbow, something that you want some confidence in more of that entry level price point, as it being a rock solid bow that I can at least speak to of having experience with, like a lot of experience with. This is a bow that you guys should look at. It's coming in just under $500. Comes with a complete package, scope, bolts, quiver, all that stuff. So take a look at Psyched Crossbows. And, I want to just give you guys this stuff. And you probably know I am, affiliated with KI. I absolutely love KI Crossbows. I have no reason to deviate from them because I love what they're doing as a company. I love the bows that I have from them that I've hunted with and have had the opportunity and the pleasure to test and give feedback on and all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited to see what KI comes out with this year because I think they had a great lineup last year with the Fatal X, with the SWAT X1, and with the Ripper 425. Still keeping the Ripper 415 in their profile. All the bows that KI's done. I mean, don't take this as me deviating from my my affiliation with a crossbow company. I'm very, very proud to work with KI, but I just want to give you guys, there are other great bows out there, and one that I have firsthand experience with in that PSE Invictus that I also love. When I saw this Psyched Hunt Vindicate XVC, I wanted to give these guys some advertising, if you want to call it that, just because that PSE bow has been and continues to be a workhorse of a crossbow that you guys will love if you buy it. So that's kind of a fun game as crossbow companies release new models. take a look, see if they line up with any of the Poling, Mankung, or Horizon line of stuff. Or if you find another manufacturer that I haven't mentioned, please tell me, because I like looking at this stuff and just trying to find as much info as I can and reviews on new bows that I can. So that is, I guess, kind of the Taiwanese manufacturer talking point here. I want to transition into now off season. Like I said, man, I've been bored. I've been cooped up. It's cold as hell. And I kind of sat down the other day and just thought, like, what can I do right now to help me for 2022? I mean, I did a couple of videos over on just the Draggin Deer channel, just about some postseason scouting, which I did, going back through trail cam photos, which I did. Those are all very valuable things that you can still do right now. But there's a couple other things that I didn't touch on in any videos that I think would be helpful for you guys. So let's go down through the list of, I got 4 kind of items here that I want to share with you. I kind of already touched on this one, but item number 1, and this can kind of be a fast one, is just if you're looking to buy a crossbow, either an upgrade to what you have or just your first crossbow in general, just like any end of year type of, product that releases new models every year, the end of year is a great time to buy those things, just like the crossbow. There's going to be new models coming out. Manufacturers, some have already released new models, like 10 Point. Raven has some new models. Who else? Excalibur has a new version of the Twin Strike. Like, new bow manufacturers are starting to release their 2022 stuff. If there are dealers or stores or places that sell crossbows that still have 2021 inventory, there's a real good chance that there are going to be some solid discounts on some solid bows. So if you're okay with not getting the latest and greatest 2022 stuff, find a hot deal on a 2021 model and pick it up. If you're in the market for it, pick it up now, because you will definitely save some money. You'll still get a great bow, whatever it is that you're looking at, whatever manufacturer, whatever price point. There's some deals to be had out there. So item number 1 is, if you're looking for a crossbow, shop now. Item number 2 is bow maintenance and bow inspections. Take care of that stuff right now. If you have your owner's manual, you should pull it out and read it and figure out the maintenance for your crossbow and do it before you store it for a long period of time. And when you store your crossbow, let's store it in a way that, like, you would store a guitar. A guitar I have heard of as a reference for a crossbow that I actually really like. Probably not going to rest the guitar with, like, the strings pressing up against a desk, or I don't know, something like that, something where it's going to get all out of tune, all out of whack. Treat your crossbow the same way. So when you figure out your maintenance for your crossbow, do it, and then store your crossbow in a way that is just safe. Store it somewhere where it's not cold as hell, like it is here in Michigan. Like, if I was storing mine out in my garage, my pole barn, where it's, it's cold. It's dry in the wintertime. Maybe you're in a different climate. Maybe it's still hot and humid. I don't know, but keep it in a controlled environment. Store it in a way that it, like, if you don't have a hard case, if you have a soft case, store it so you're not, like, resting your limbs and your cams, like the crossbow's not resting on its side. I think that, I've talked to some people, I think leaving crossbows sit where they're just kind of resting on that limb, even uncocked, I think that can cause some issues that might not show themselves immediately. But, the last thing that we want is at the start of the season, having some issue when we pull our crossbow back out. Crossbow limbs have a lot of preload on them. even when they're not cocked. They are under some pretty intense loading and stress that just naturally, just the way they are, that can be amplified if the weight of the bow is leaning on a particular limb or on a cam, or there's some weight on a cam bearing or the axle, or like all that kind of stuff. Like, just don't do it. Just don't put your crossbow in in an environment that can invite issues to happen when you pull it back out to get going on the 2022 season and start shooting again. If it's in a hard case, you're probably fine. If it's in a soft case, make sure it's resting in a manner that is not going to introduce issues. If you don't have either, great way to store your crossbow is to hang it from the foot stirrup, with whatever, a hook, maybe a fancy plaque. There's crossbow holders out there now you can buy if you kind of want to make a display item as well as a functional hunting tool. Safe storage, I think, can go a long way to alleviating some of the issues that we often see to start the deer seasons. And if you don't have your owner's manual or a maintenance plan for your crossbow, like if you threw it away, download one. Now's a good time to do that. Or talk to a manufacturer, talk to your local crossbow dealer. Outside of hunting season now, it's not the busy time of the season where dealers are swamped, manufacturers are swamped, taking customer service calls, trying to get product out the door, all that type of stuff. Now is a great time if you need to pick someone's brain as far as what you should do maintenance wise and storage wise and all that kind of stuff. Inspection wise, if you take it to one of your dealers, now is a great time to get a lot of that stuff done in the off season. So that is item number 2. Maintenance and inspections. Do it now. If you're going to store your crossbow, store it right. Just alleviate some of the pain points that we often see starting out seasons. Just take care of it now. Item number 3. We're going to kind of take a shift away from equipment, crossbow specific equipment, and we're going to talk about hunting properties. Now, we can touch on, I guess, a little bit public land. There is tons of information on how to find public land, how to scout public land. But I watch it, I follow it. I can't give you guys any better info than the experts from places like the Hunting Public or the Hunting Beast, or listening to John Eberhart talk, or some of the stuff Jeff Sturgis puts out around finding deer on public land. They are the experts, and there is a lot of information as far as how to do that. So you've got the tools in apps like Onyx or HuntWise or HuntStand or whatever app that you use to locate it. And there's lots of information out there already as far as how to break down scouting, what you're looking for, that kind of stuff. So I guess the public land side of things is, if that's something you're interested in, now is a great time to go check some stuff out. There's probably not many people in the woods. Go scout some areas. On the private side of things, this is kind of my number one tip for getting access to private land, and that is asking and establishing a relationship for something outside of deer hunting. What I mean by that is, an example, here in Michigan, there's farms all over the place where I live. Lots of people deer hunt. People deer hunt everywhere here, but there's not a ton of, I guess it's growing, but there's not a ton of predator hunters, and landowners are not as protective of their predator population and hunting situations as they are deer hunting. So one thing that I want to do is go knock on some doors and see if I can hunt predators. There's a very high chance that I will get a yes, please shoot coyotes here. They're everywhere, is the reaction I've gotten in the past, and the reaction that I'm hoping I get in the future, but I know the chances of that reaction are probably higher than me showing up in late August, knocking on the door, asking if I can deer hunt, because there's probably already people that have done it. That hunter might or that landowner might have bad experiences with deer hunters from the past. It's really easy for them to just say no to deer hunting when it's close to season. But if you establish a relationship, if they know who you are, see how you treat their land, and get access to do something other than deer hunting, like predator hunting, that's a really good in to then come back and ask later, in that summertime, to deer hunt. And it takes a lot of pressure off of you. If you're going in to a ask, knocking on a landowner's door, knowing there's a fairly good chance that you're going to get a yes for something, it's just easier on you. It's easier. You are going to display your best self, and not be all nervous or jittery or whatever. And quite frankly, like me, if you don't get access to predator hunt some farm, who cares? Go to the next one. Like, it's not that big of a hit, as opposed to, oh, this farm looks so sweet, I really hope I can deer hunt this, and you ask and they say no, and then you're bummed out and you're down. You don't want to knock on other doors. Takes pressure off of you. Honestly, it's probably a less pressure situation for that landowner. It gives you an opportunity to get to know them a little bit, them get to know you. At least they recognize your face when you knock on the door in the summertime and ask about deer hunting. Really just good in. Predator hunting is one. Shed hunting is another. Turkey hunting in the spring is another, or small game hunting, or basically anything that you also enjoy doing and that you want to do, that can be your foot in the door, your ability to put, a face to a name for that landowner that is not deer hunting. Promise you guys, it is a higher probability that when you do ask for deer hunting, that you get a yes. If you get a no, if you get access to predator hunt or turkey hunt or squirrel hunt or whatever, and you get a no for deer hunting, it's a really easy just way to kind of be like, okay, I totally understand. If anything ever changes with your with who deer hunts your land, I would love the opportunity to do it. So please think of me if something ever changes and the opportunity to deer hunt opens up. Leave it at that. And hopefully you can continue to do a little bit of hunting for other game species and other seasons, and just continue to build that relationship. And you never know, you will probably be, as that landowner gets to know you, if something does pop up, you will probably be the first on their list to allow you to deer hunt. So that is my number one tip, and that is something that you can do and establish right now, is access to private land. Number 4, and this is one that we have talked about, that I've talked about on this podcast quite a bit, that we have done videos on quite a bit, but that is bolt tuning. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but now is a great time to explore that. And I talk about this a lot, you guys, because this is honestly, this is the biggest value added thing that I have done for crossbows, for my compound bow, that is just directly correlated to more confidence hunting, better accuracy, better broadhead flight, regardless of the broadhead that you shoot, better, basically, what would you want to call it? Arrow performance, in kinetic energy and momentum. I have found no negative to doing bolt tuning. And I want you to know, you don't have to do everything the way I do it, or the way people like the Ranch Fairy do it. Even though I'm a big fan and big proponent of his stuff, you don't have to go completely down that rabbit hole if you don't want to. You can tailor bolt tuning, arrow tuning, however you want, for whatever meets your needs, for whatever your hunting situations are, for whatever setups you want to shoot, you can do it. But now is a great time. If it's cold outside, you can shoot inside. You don't need a ton of space. Now, I'm going to say that, and if you're going to do that, please be safe. Please be safe if you're going to set something up to shoot your crossbow inside. Make sure you've got a really good target that's going to stop your bolts after you shoot through paper. Make sure you probably have something behind that. So if a bolt pokes through the other side, you're going to be shooting at close range, and they might, a couple pieces of plywood or something, just so you're not poking holes in your wall or sending a bolt into your wall. Those type of safety precautions are definitely a must. But to bolt tune, you really need 7 yards. Okay, you need a target to stop your bolt at 7, and you need a piece of paper held taut in some way, shape, or form at 5 yards. It doesn't really matter how you do it. It could be a cardboard box that you cut a window out of. Could be a little wooden stand that you make, or a metal stand, or whatever. But you can start tuning now and start playing with things and start tinkering with things. And there's probably bolts and inserts and broadheads that you can find now or find soon that are items that get really hot before right before hunting season kind of rolls around. So I would really encourage you guys to do that. Like I said, it has 100% been the biggest value added thing. If you need some help with that, I've done episode 1 of this podcast series was all about paper tuning, and nock tuning and what you're looking for. Definitely check that out. Check out some of the other videos that I've done. Check out the Ranch Fairies channel, and you can kind of just learn the elements of what you're doing to that bolt or that arrow, and just apply it to your crossbow, because it applies basically the same way. What you're doing is basically the same. Crossbow hunters just have the advantage of essentially the human element of things is removed almost completely. We don't have things we have to pay attention to, like how we're gripping the bow, how tight our form when shooting, that kind of stuff. It's definitely easier with a crossbow, but everything that pretty much anyone teaches, myself, the Ranch Fairy, anybody else, on arrow or bolt tuning, you can apply it straight to a crossbow. So if you're interested in that, and I really, really, really encourage you to be interested in it, start doing it now, because it will pay off in how your setups perform. It will pay off, and you'll get ahead of the game when you really start shooting more in the nicer weather in the approaching season, but get some of that tuning stuff done now. With that said, couple things on the tuning side of things that I'm exploring, I wouldn't mind your feedback on, is instead of, I've kind of been what I would consider like a intermediate level of tuning in the Ranch Fairy stuff. Basically doing nock tuning, which is like if you want to call it like the poor man's version of spine indexing. Doing it fletch, so shooting the 3 fletching positions, figuring out which one shoots the best, playing with weight up front to find the weight that shoots the best, ultimately trying to find a setup within nock position as well as total upfront weight of my bolt that shoots a perfect bullet hole through paper. And me personally, I want the heaviest setup that achieves that perfect bullet hole. With that, I've now kind of, I'm wanting to, and I'm exploring basically making my own spine indexing fixture. I've got the components to do it. I'm in the process of making it. And if you don't know what a spine indexing tool or fixture is, it's basically just like nock tuning or bear shaft tuning with a compound bow. Instead of turning your nock and shooting multiple different positions, trying to figure out what orientation of a particular bolt or arrow shoots the best through paper, you are finding the stiff plane or strong plane and the weak plane of a shaft with a dial indicator. So there's a standard way to do it with a compound bow arrow shaft. At least I haven't found a standard way to necessarily, sorry, I should say there's a standard way to measure spine with compound arrow shafts. I haven't necessarily found the quote unquote standard for measuring spine on a crossbow bolt, being that they're shorter. But what you're doing is you apply weight to the center of the shaft. So you have it supported on basically each of its ends with a little bit hanging over, but essentially each end is supported. There's a weight hanging off the middle, and there's a dial indicator right where the weight is. And you rotate the shaft 360 degrees, and you watch how that dial indicator moves. Basically, where you get the most deflection, the sides of the shaft that you get the most deflection, that is your weak plane. And the sides of your shaft that you get the least deflection, that is your strong plane. And I say planes because there should be basically two strong sides 180 degrees apart and two weak sides 180 degrees apart. So you are finding that without shooting that bolt or arrow shaft. And with a crossbow, from the research that I've done, you want your strong plane oriented basically either up or basically up and down on your rail. So when you find that strong plane, that is where you're going to fletch your odd feather, so that the strong plane is oriented vertical on your rail, not horizontal. So that's what I'm doing. I want to do that. I want to 100% find the strong side and weak side, and hopefully take my accuracy to, just another level. Because the nock tuning, it does work, and you will definitely find a nock position that shoots the best, but that does not necessarily guarantee that that strong plane is oriented perfectly vertical on your rail. That's what I want to do. I also bought a fletching jig. I bought the Goat Tough fletching jig. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but there's not a ton of options for crossbow fletching, at least that I have found. And there's fletching jigs that I've used in the past, different designs of them that, maybe I just wasn't very good at using them. I'm not saying they were bad, but I just didn't have the results I wanted when I used them. So this Goat Tough one I like for a couple of reasons. It's not expensive. It's a single fletch or single feather vane fletch at a time, but it basically uses these two spring-loaded standoffs. There's a little indexing wheel that has 120-degree pegs on it that go into a different little recess that allows you to index the bolt. And you put a fletching plate into the jig, and it comes with different plates. It comes with let's see here, I'm reading the box right now, 1/2 degree offset, 1 degree, 2 degree, and 3 degree. So it comes with different plates you can swap out. There are also different sizes, so they accommodate different fletching sizes. And basically you put a vane in that plate, put some glue on it, put your bolt on the standoffs, put the indexer on the end of your bolt, and then you push down on those spring-loaded standoffs, and that's going to allow your shaft to make contact with the fletching that has the glue on it. Hold it for a couple seconds. Once the glue adheres, you can pull it out. You index the little wheel, and you do the same thing. Couple reasons I really like this jig. One, to me, it just seems simple for me to use. I kind of like doing one at a time. I like the plates. The big reason I like the plates is because they're very simple in their design, and I have a 3D printer. I have modeling software. My real job is I'm a mechanical engineer. So I can make plates for different size fletchings or different offsets if I want to try something other than what came with this fletching jig. Same thing goes for the indexer. So being the crossbow version of this fletching jig, I got the crossbow indexer, so it's got a little bit bigger OD for crossbow shafts. But if I want to 3D print one for a compound bow shaft, it's also another really easy thing. So there's some customization for me personally that I can do to this fletching jig. But everything that I've seen, that I've read, that I've looked at, this just seems like a really easy one to use. So I want to play not only with that spine indexing fixture and finding exactly where that stiff plane is, but I also want to play with some different types of fletchings and different offsets, and I guess take my my intermediate level of tuning to a, I guess this would be advanced level, if you want to call it that, and squeeze out more accuracy, even better broadhead flight, ultimately leading, for me, more confidence when I'm out in the field. Guys, that's what I have for you tonight. I appreciate you joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're going to check out some tuning stuff, some ways to get access to property, freaking do your bow maintenance and store that thing properly. If you're looking for a crossbow, now's the time to buy. And, for funsies, check out Poling, Mankung, Horizon, as far as Taiwanese manufacturers. See what other bows you can find other than the ones that I chimed off or spouted off. If you find some that I didn't mention, list them in the comments below, because I love figuring out who makes what and finding even more info on them. But thank you. Thank you for joining me, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day or evening, whatever time it is that you're listening to this. And we'll see you again next time on the Bent Limbs Podcast.